everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we kick this off, I would like to point out to the audience that we welcome questions. Please post in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen any questions that come up during today's presentation, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. So I would now like to turn this over to Iwona Beczkowska, sorry, who is the head of business development for Xgene. And Iwona, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Kali. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Xgene focuses on developing of novel non-opioid analgesic agents. And I know that we all have different backgrounds and a different level of familiarity with pain sector. So what I would like to start is with a bit of a background on pain specifically, to give us a better understanding of how different and how unique those the properties of analgesic agents are, how they are different from existing pain treatments, and also help us to appreciate the clinical data that was generated thus far in support of that uniqueness. Now, pain is a universal phenomenon. I mean, we are all familiar with it. We all experience it every day to a different degrees. It does not discriminate between ages, genders, geographical locations. It is not a disease in itself, but it is a symptom that often signals underlying conditions that could be quite serious. Pain is also quite essential to our survival. It serves as a critical warning signal, an early warning signal that there may be a potential tissue damage that we need to pay attention to in order to prevent further harm and to tend to those conditions in order to basically preserve our well-being and integrity of our bodies. And because of this pain signaling being so critical to our well-being and survival, our bodies are equipped with their multiple and very complex systems that are responsible for detecting, signaling, and interpretation of pain. It's partially because of that intricacy and that complexity that is responsible for challenging in developing of safe and effective pain management therapies. Because of those pathways being very often redundant, and because the failure is not an option when it comes to pain signaling, inhibiting one pathway may not be enough to provide an adequate analgesia for specific pain types. Now, what makes Xgene approach to pain treatment unique? To start with, the molecules are constructed to take into consideration that existing complexity and multiplicity of pain pathways. Those molecules target simultaneously and inhibit simultaneously more than one pathway. In case of existing molecules that are under study, those molecules are targeting the basic, most commonly pathways that are activated in the painful conditions, namely inflammation and nerve damage that can lead to neuropathy. And those two pain pathways are also most frequently activated in most frequently encountered pain conditions. It also reflects a real life practice. Pain doctors and other physicians are encouraged to utilize multimodal approach when it comes to treatment, and they are already prescribing more than one type of drug class in order to provide adequate analgesia. And lastly, since these are non-opioid analgesic agents, let's put this in a perspective of an opioid epidemic that is so prominent in the United States, and it has a significant impact on a pharmaceutical industry with number of companies going bankrupt, on practicing physicians that are utilizing opiates in treatment of pain of their patients, and lastly, but most importantly, on patients. The impact the opioid epidemic has on patients who are requiring um, opiate treatments due to the severity of their pain. Now, opiates, when prescribed and used responsibly, are very effective. And despite all of those challenges when it comes to a potential of abuse and quite considerable list of potential of opiate side effects like nausea, vomiting, headache, somnolence, respiratory depression, they are a standard of care, and they will remain a standard of care as long as there are no other non-opiate options available that work as well. Now, at Xgene, we believe that the analgesic agents that are under development could potentially provide that alternative to opiate options. Let's look at some clinical data that is going to illustrate why that we believe that we have a support for positioning Xgene's non-opiate analgesics in a potential competition with opiates being a potential replacement or being able to reduce significantly a need for a use of opiates. The first asset is most advanced in clinical development is XG005. We'll use a abbreviation 005. It's a dual acting molecule targeting inflammation and nerve damage neuropathy in oral formulation. And the first data from the first study that I would like to share is probably from the worst case scenario. This study was conducted, and it's still ongoing, in an advanced late stage or terminal stage patients with a cancer with a metastatic disease to the bone. Bone pain is one of the conditions that is known for one of the most severe aspects or most severe type of pain. The patients that are enrolled in this trial have a metastatic bone disease, and they are included regardless of the origin of the primary cancer. Their pain is moderate to severe, and they are no longer responsive to or are no longer able to tolerate opiate analgesics. So if you can imagine, the bodies of these patients are ravaged by a disease, by multiple rounds of chemotherapy, radiation, probably multiple surgeries. The study, as I said, is ongoing. It employs one dose administered twice a day for 14 days. And it has an open label phase prior to patients being randomized to the treatment group. So this is the data that I can share at this particular point of time. Thus far, 25 patients have been randomized. The pain research employs a tool called numerical rating scale that runs from 1 to 10, 1 being the pain that it's extremely mild, barely perceptible. 10 is the pain that is the worst pain I have ever experienced. 5 is somewhere in the middle, is the moderate pain. And an example, the cancer pain falls in the category of severe, as you can imagine. The pain scores in those particular patients were between 4 and 8, and 25% of those patients experienced a pain score reduction of more than 4 points. 44%, somewhere between 2 to 4 points, and 36% of patients scores were reduced, they stayed the same or reduced by 2 points. Now, if you can imagine your pain being at 8 and having that pain reduced by 4 points from severe to moderate, that can make a very considerable difference in patients' well-being and the impact of pain having on their life. Now, in addition to pain scores, there were other observations that I'd like to share. To start with, these patients experienced an enhanced cognitive awareness. They became lucid once the opiates were not on board. Patients were able to have meaningful interactions with their loved ones. And if you've had anyone who've lost to cancer, you know how precious those moments of being able to communicate can be. The patients also showed an improved quality of sleep. They slept better. They woke up more rested. And also they have experienced improved appetite, with a side effect of opiates being nausea, vomiting, dizziness, and so forth. Being able to eat, enjoy the food, and to retain the much needed nutrients had a significant impact on the last days and perhaps weeks of those patients. So from this study, I think we can conclude that the 005 could potentially provide effective and more beneficial pain treatment option compared to opioids for cancer patients. It also suggests that when this therapy with Xgene therapeutic agents were to be initiated earlier, it could completely eliminate the need for opiate analgesics. Another scenario in which the opiates are standard of care is post-surgical pain. So this data is from a study, phase 2 study that was completed with in 450 patients undergoing bunionectomy. Post-surgical pain related to bunionectomy is considered severe. 2 doses were tested with the approach of an aim of testing whether the drug or this intervention could prevent development of post-surgical pain. And the results actually did show that 005 prevented development of post-surgical pain, with the maximum pain experience in treatment groups being less than 4, as compared to placebo arm that experienced pain over 7. And if you recall from the numerical pain ratings scale, the prevention of the pain and keeping severe post-surgical pain and keeping it in a mild range is quite an achievement. Also noted in the data was that the first time to rescue, or the need for a rescue medication, was delayed 8-fold. And for the patients that did require rescue, the opioid consumption was reduced by 74%. More importantly, 42% of the patients in this particular study did not require any rescue medication, indicating that 005 was effective in preventing the pain on its own. So, based on these outcomes, we've concluded that 05 holds promise when developed for a prevention of pain, and it also may keep promise, which is going to be tested in the next two trials in treatment of pain. The differences between the prevention is that the drug is administered prior to the pain developing, the actual surgery. Treatment, the drug is administered after the surgery and the pain exists. Another trial in chronic pain of osteoarthritis was conducted in 330 patients with moderate to severe osteoarthritis with moderate to severe damage to the knee, with 2 doses for duration of the trial was 4 weeks, and the results show that the 005 produced clinically significant and meaningful and statistically significant results with all points that were evaluated, which included daily walking pain, which is quite significant when it comes to being able to move, as opposed to having less pain when you are sitting down or lying down. I mean, the most pain happens for those of us who actually are afflicted by arthritis. We know that it's most difficult and most felt when you start moving. So having a significant improvement in pain while walking, it actually makes a big difference when it comes to the quality of life and quality of care. Other endpoints included WOMAC pain, stiffness, and function, and also improvement in sleep quality. And again, for those for us who are familiar with arthritis, we know that you in the middle of the night you turn the wrong way, and then you wake up because your joints are painful and you can feel them. There's also a positive results when it comes to patient and clinical global impression when it comes to positive change. Another aspect that's worth noting is that 005 demonstrated a very rapid onset of effect, achieving a significant improvement in daily walking pain within 24 hours of treatment initiation. So 005 showed a promise in a prevention of pain, or of acute pain. It's in acute pain, a very significant benefit, analgesic benefit when it comes to chronic severe cancer pain. And it delivered the meaningful analgesia in the chronic non-malignant pain that showed not only the analgesic effect, but also improvement on symptoms that are commonly associated with arthritis. Now, what does it mean when it comes to market potential? The proof of concept in prevention of pain, the proof of concept in a severe cancer pain, chronic cancer pain, proof of concept with non-malignant osteoarthritis pain. I mean, all of those pain conditions and the outcome of those studies could transfer the value of it on a number of other potential pain indications. And in the United States, once the drug is approved, the phenomenon of off-label use, once the doctors actually get hands on the drug, is quite prominent. So even in the absence of clinical data and a formal clinical trials for those additional indications that are listed here, and they're quite vast. I mean, it could include acute post-surgical pain for any type of surgery, being a soft tissue or bony amputations, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, back pain, and many more. So let's switch gears now to the other analgesic agents that it's in development by Xgene. 004, which is also a dual acting molecule targeting inflammation and nerve damage and neuropathy, which is in a topical gel formulation. This formulation has completed one small study, 1b/2a trial in chronic osteoarthritis pain of the knee with a exploratory endpoints that were examining potential analgesic efficacy in addition to the safety that is typical for a phase one. 32 patients with moderate to severe pain and with moderate or mild to moderate joint damage. Two different concentrations of the gel applied to a painful affected knee once, twice, or three times a day for seven consecutive days. And this study actually showed a quite promising signal with the patients experiencing a substantial pain relief, and not only pain relief, but also improvement in joint function, stiffness, and in sleep quality. There was an excellent tolerability when it comes to the topical application with no irritation and with no adverse events suggesting of systemic exposure. In other words, the drug penetrated to the target tissue. It stayed localized without getting into the circulation. And it could offer a significant analgesic benefits, not just from the perspective of pain, but also from the perspective of improvement of the outcomes and in function. It could also serve as a complementary option for oral therapies that would potentially broaden management of strategies for both patients and healthcare providers. And when it comes to potential expansion or other painful conditions that this topical formulation could be utilized for, I mean, there is a quite extensive list, including any type of peripheral neuropathic pain conditions like postherpetic neuralgia, painful diabetic neuropathy, chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, back pain, and so forth. And now I will be happy to share this presentation afterwards, whoever is going to be interested to view more of the details on the slides. Now, how do those drugs work? The scientific approach is based on a conjugation platform. Both of those agents, 005 and 004, are conjugated dual action molecules that are fused together. The actives are fused together chemically by a linker that joins two of the active ingredients, forming a new chemical entity. In case of 005 and 004, the actives are naproxen, which is an NSAID inhibiting inflammatory enzymes that drive the inflammation that is responsible for pain. And the second active ingredient, it's a gabapentinoid pregabalin, which targets a specific subtypes of calcium ion channel. They're both of those have a peripheral as well as a central effect, and they both simultaneously target inflammatory nociceptive pain and a neuropathic pain. And here are some aspects of this approach that basically describes why the conjugates are different from a fixed dose combination. There are two potential other ways of administering those two actives. One is a free combination, meaning you take one tablet of pregabalin, one tablet of naproxen, or a fixed dose combination, which combines both of those active ingredients in a single tablet. Now, those are not the same. You're not going to get the same results by using additive-free combination or a fixed dose combination. To start with, the conjugated molecules simultaneously target multiple distinct by complementary pain pathways, being, in this case, inflammation and neuropathy. The conjugation for oral tablets results with the property that allows the tablet to remain in a GI tract mostly intact. And the active ingredients are not cleaved until they reach the blood, the circulation, which contains one very specific enzyme, carboxyl esterase, that is responsible for cleaving and separating the active ingredients at the same time. So in addition to the protection of the GI tract from the harmful effects of the NSAIDs, the simultaneous delivery to the entrance to the circulation and the cleavage of active ingredients at the same time results in the active metabolites reaching the bloodstream simultaneously. And it translates into a synchronized pharmacokinetic profile. So both of those actives experience Cmax or maximal plasma concentration and a C-trough, the lowest plasma concentration at the same time. And also it prevents this conjugation, prevents leaving the pharmacokinetic curve the most optimal therapeutic window. Now, with dermal conjugates, the molecules show very deep penetration, and they, as I mentioned, they remain localized in a target tissue with minimal systemic exposure. But due to the very slow cleavage rate by the carboxyl esterases present in the skin, and that also allows for a extended duration of analgesic effect. So it is a dermal formulation, not transdermal. It does not reach the systemic circulation. And it also, it's a gel, but it seems to show the properties of a patch. Another difference between a fixed dose combination and the conjugate is that the conjugates are new chemical entities. They do have a composition of matter protection. So let's talk about the market. How does those those novel analgesic agents could have an impact on, and how they could be utilized? On the left-hand side, that's basically statistics based on painful conditions or pain indications that are most frequently diagnosed. And with the blue label, that designates those pain conditions that the Xgene analgesic agents could have and could be utilized. We already have the data from cancer postoperative pain, and as you may notice, I mean, there is quite a bit of overlap. The musculoskeletal is a very broad term. Surgical and trauma and postoperative pain are basically subtypes of musculoskeletal pain. On the right-hand side, that's it depicts a market value based on sales by drug class, with not surprisingly opiates leading the way. Now, again, the blue label may show the market segments that Xgene analgesic can have an impact on. Most notably, it can grow the non-narcotic analgesic market segment, but it also can take a share from the opiate NSAID and anticonvulsant segments. Now, the global market, pain global market exceeds $87 billion, and it's expected to nearly double by 2034. With all those potential inroads into pain indications as well as the drug classes, the Xgene analgesic could create quite a substantial commercial value. Now, a brief company overview. On the left-hand side, that's the entire pipeline, which is quite balanced. Mentioned 005, 004. This is phase 3, 04 phase 2, 002 phase 1, and 2 additional programs that are in earlier development, either in discovery or preclinical. Brief history. Xgene has been established in 2015. It operates in Taiwan, China, and the United States. In addition to those 3 locations, clinical trials have always been conducted in Australia, and when Xgene also has an office. The company went through 3 rounds of financing, raising over $60 million, and the company also anticipate initial public offering on Hong Kong exchange in the next 12 to 18 months. This is a very conservative estimate. It's probably going to happen sooner. The focus is on patent-protected small molecules, new chemical entities, targeting a multiple or dual mechanisms of actions at the same time. These are non-opioids, which could have a significant impact given the pressure to minimize the use of opiates. And to date, the company has demonstrated to be able to conduct clinical trials quite successfully. To recap again, do have a very robust clinical data validating the efficacy and safety and the potential advantages of Xgene programs. Have a very strong patent position, with Wilson Sonsini being on a retainer to pursue creating a picket fence of patents that include composition of matter, method of synthesis, method of synthesis, manufacturing method of use, crystal structure, and formulation. This picket fence, including the patents that have issued and the ones that have been applied for, can extend the exclusivity to 2040 for an oral agent and a few years more for a topical agent. This creates an opportunity for significant expansion and inroads to a market segment and indications. And the market, the investment opportunity here is based on a potential value inflection that are anticipated based on a progression of the clinical pipeline as well as an anticipated IPO. So what is it that the company needs at this point? The goal is to raise $50 million to support the Hong Kong IPO, and also to be able to initiate and complete 2 phase 3 trials for the most advanced asset in the pipeline, the 005 oral product, with 2 phase 3 trials in a post-surgical pain models. One is following abdominoplasty. And as I mentioned, it's a treatment model with the active, so 005 being administered after the surgery, after the pain has already developed. That study is going to include, in addition to placebo, 2 active comparators, including naproxen, and 2 placebo. And the study is going to include 2 active comparators, including naproxen, and 2 placebo. And the study is going to include, in addition to placebo, 2 active comparators, including naproxen, and 2 placebo. and an opiate to be able to compare the efficacy and the safety profile versus those two actives. And the second phase 3 trial, also in post-surgical pain, again in bunionectomy, this time a treatment model after the pain has developed with a placebo and naproxen. Now, with the naproxen, presence of a naproxen arm, that's based on the outcome of an end of phase 2 meeting with the FDA. So this is basically a regulatory requirement. The presence of opiate is a commercial requirement to be able to define with certainty the positioning and potential advantages of the Xgene's approach, dual targeting non-opiate analgesic agents versus a suboptimal opiate approach. So this is all that I have at this point. I do appreciate the interest and your attention, and I would like to take questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you so much, Iwona. You can stop sharing your screen and we will jump to the questions. So, synchronized PK, how does this conjugate approach compare to two separate doses of the same compound? Yes, patient compliance will be a big benefit of conjugate approach.
Yeah, this is basically at the very basis of the advantages. The PK profile and the PK characteristics are in the basis that explain why those two drugs, while conjugated, have such a better efficacy and side effect profile. So when you take your two drugs separately, or two tablets at the same time, and the same applies for a fixed dose combinations. Each of those ingredients have their own way and a time when they are absorbed. Pregabalin has its own transport system in the upper GI. The naproxen is absorbed through the lower intestine. So the early and very rapid absorption of pregabalin results in a very rapid rise and a very steep peak in a maximum concentration, which has been shown in the previous data that's it's responsible for pregabalin CNS side effects. Now, when it comes to naproxen, whether it's a free combination or a fixed dose combinations, they're going to be dissolved in the GI, and their harmful effects, the erosions and the potential bleeding may take place. Now, with the conjugation, those two actives traverse through the entire GI system intact. They go through the lumen of the lower intestine, and then they encounter the carboxyl esterases, which are responsible for cleaving those two active ingredients apart. So they reach the blood circulation at the same time, and that results in a synchronized presence in the blood, where both of them go through their metabolic pathway as they would normally do, with the exception that they're doing it doing it together, as opposed to each one of them going on their own way and following their own PK destination and pathway.
Thank you. So your platform generates entirely new chemical entities rather than fixed dose combinations. What does your IP moat look like? Is it composition of matter, method of use, manufacturing, or all of the above?
It's all of the above, and I do appreciate the question because there are some complexities when it comes to the fact that this is a new chemical entity with composition of matter protection. So that complexity actually translated into an interesting regulatory path with the company having to complete a full preclinical package for a new chemical entity, but at the same time, because the active ingredients, once cleaved, are very well known and characterized, we take advantage of the fact that the clinical development can actually follow 505(b)(2) path with a substantial saving of time and the resources and being able to accelerate those programs quite rapidly.
And what are the biggest development or safety risks that we should understand around dual mechanism conjugate drugs? Have your trials addressed those risks?
Well, it's I wouldn't say that they're. I mean, when it comes to the conjugate, the actual message to take home is that those risks that are typically associated with those individual ingredients or those individual actives are being ameliorated. So there is basically a lot less risk of a GI toxicity with the GI tract being protected. There is a lot less risk of experiencing CNS side effects, and we do have data actually demonstrating both of those aspects. So there is a great improvement when it comes to the characteristics and the potential side effects, in addition to a analgesic efficacy that cannot be explained by an additive effect. I mean, clearly there is a synergy by inhibiting both of those independent pathways simultaneously.
Thank you. And who are your target patients once approved? For instance, could this be used for patients on chemotherapy to help them withstand the chemo longer and therefore complete a full course to beat the cancer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a great question and a really great observation. I mean, chemotherapy induced neuropathy is one of the major hurdles when it comes to the cancer treatment. So just by having an aspect of addressing the neuropathic pathway, that could have a significant impact on being able to have an analgesia and being able to, as you say, withstand the chemotherapy in a better shape.
And is the cocktail specifically for most extreme forms of pain, or could it be used for mild pain?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes, absolutely. It can be used for a mild pain. I mean, the range of doses used in those trials. I mean, there are anywhere between 250 milligrams for a mild pain, like a mild osteoarthritis pain, which we did see statistically significant and clinically meaningful effect in the osteoarthritis trial, to as high as 1250, which was employed for a severe post-surgical pain. Now, interestingly enough, for severe cancer pain, the dose that was employed was 750. So it wasn't even as high as the post-surgical pain. And also keep in mind that the proportion, one-to-one proportion between the two active ingredients in a conjugate, in every single, maybe with the exception of pregabalin with the highest dose, but with other doses used, these are sub therapeutic doses of either one of them.
Thank you. So during the presentation, you mentioned, did you say the patient became more lucid?
Mhm. Yes, and that is predominantly due to absence of opiate therapy. As I have mentioned, those patients have been treated with opiates. They have reached the limit, so they maxed out on opiates. They are no longer having any benefits. They're severely sedated, and they are no longer tolerating the opiates due to the side effects. So the trial was initiated by removing the opiates from the equation and replacing the opiate analgesics with the non-opiate double O5. So it's not the function, or it was not the function of the O5 to increase awareness. It was the benefit of not using an opiate that resulted in patients being able to interact and being lucid, not going in and out of consciousness.
Thank you. And how does the company feel about a non-dilutive international licensing deal?
Oh, very positively. With the anticipated public offering, we're very much open to any type of transaction or any type of activity that is going to result in increasing the value and a external validation of the value of the company, as well as any activity that is going to result in an increase in the value of the entire portfolio.
And do you plan on taking this to market yourselves or to partner in phase 3?
The plan is to partner, and we are actively seeking partnerships here in the United States as well as other territories. Recently, the company has executed a licensing deal for 005 for rights to develop and market in China with Xgene. So the programs are basically available worldwide for licensing, with the exception of China. Now, if we do encounter a a beneficial or attractive deal, I mean, that's definitely is a preference for it. And it's just like everybody else, we will prefer a broad deal that covers more of a territory as opposed to, you know, highly defined and restricted geographical location. But we're also open to that as well. So we're not excluding the possibility of, licensing those assets in, let's say, Latin America or in Japan, or specifically for Europe, or exclusively for Europe. Now, another possibility, although it would not have been preferred if the partnership is not in place. I mean, there are options of engaging the services of marketing consultants, as well as the marketing companies that actually provide or do marketing for you, and bringing those consultants and those service providers on board.
Thank you. Can you again talk about what the current valuation of the company is and what it would be expected, its expected value after IPO?
Right. I mean, that's a little bit, crossing over to a confidential aspect of it.
Sure.
I can disclose that the post round C, so post round C money, the current valuation is 230 million. I don't feel comfortable
Sure.
speculating what that might be after the IPO or at the time of the IPO.
Sure. And keeping on the subject of IPO, with its current IPO environment and low valuation for biotech public companies, why would you proceed with this strategy, and how would you navigate it differently than other non-successful or low valuation companies?
Right. I mean, that has been a trend for quite some time here in the United States and elsewhere. What makes it different is that the plan is to go public on a Hong Kong market, which has recently experienced quite a bit of a revival and created a lot of excitement among the investment community. If anyone is interested in the presentation, I actually included two links to a interviews with Goldman Sachs, CEO of Goldman Sachs, and the CEO of Morgan Stanley, that are actually addressing that how rapidly and how attractive those Hong Kong markets and the Hong Kong market has become. So we're trying to take advantage of that, and that's what creates a bit of a time pressure here, because as we know, those phenomena can become cyclical. So what we're trying to get to that IPO, which right now is extremely attractive, with the companies being in a queue. There's a waiting line to actually be listed on Hong Kong. So I mean, this, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll still catch that wave with a higher valuation and a better outlook.
Great. And then what is the minimum investment that you would take right now?
Given the fact that this is a company in advanced stages of development, and our financial needs just alone to be able to move forward with the phase 3 studies in the amount of $50 million, our preference would be for a minimum of $5 million.
Thank you. And so that actually concludes all the questions. For the audience, if you have further questions or want to be connected, please reach out to me. Everyone out there has my email address. I'm happy to facilitate that introduction. And in turn, they will have all of your information as well. And Iwona, I just want to turn it back over to you for any final words before we close out.
Yes, thank you. I do appreciate the interest, especially around this holiday time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the interest, anyone's interest in Xgene, and to learn more about our approach and how unique it is, and a potential interest in investments is greatly appreciated. So I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to hearing from you. We're more than happy to share more information and answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.